Welcome, low ego action heroes. This is Debbie Levitt from deltacx.com. We're a full service CX and UX consultancy. Check us out if you have nothing better to do, though you might. And today is episode 142, and this is called Was Design Thinking Designed to Not Work? And I'm going to be reading my Medium article of that name, and if you're joining us live, you can discuss it along with me and ask questions, and then we're going to turn it into a critical thinking exercise. If you are joining live, I'm going to ask you to think critically about some things. So I hope you're here in the chat room and you're going to join in. Hello, Meow Meow Overlord, and hello, Aitan, who's having a drink with this show. Sounds great. So let's start by going through the article, and then we're going to be putting on our critical thinking hats for a little exercise I've whipped up. But first, thanks to the people who are giving to the YouTube channel, all of our low ego action heroes donating between $3 and $10 a month. It is absolutely optional, but completely appreciated. So thanks to everybody who's doing that. And of course, you can subscribe here on the YouTube channel. And if you enjoyed today's show, find 3 people to tell about it. And let's spread the fun. All right, let me shift over to my screen and let's see, hopefully now. Yes, okay, so you should see me and the tip jar and the chat room and the article. And if you're interested in the article, it's easily Googleable. It's on Medium and it's called Was Design Thinking Designed to Not Work? And I just wrote it last week, so it's super fresh. Hello, Miguel. So here we go. There is a fantastic and long article called On Design Thinking by Maggie Graham. It tells the story of badly failing design thinking projects and then explains the origins of modern design thinking. Before I cover the article's history of design thinking and why I believe it was designed to not work as promised, here are excerpts from the article detailing 2 failed design thinking projects done by IDEO. Gainesville, Florida. A Florida town wanted to become a more competitive place for new businesses and talent. Here's how that went. Quote, how do you make a city citizen-centered? IDEO's report prescribes 9 changes for Gainesville. Early in the list is rebranding. Adopt a new logo, tagline, and visual style. Another is to create a department of doing, an office to help people start or grow businesses in Gainesville. Finally, the report says the city should become more design-minded. It should train city employees in design thinking, the use of design methods to solve problems. It should replace city commission subcommittees with design thinking workshops and frame policy questions as design questions. End quote. It went badly. IDEO completely missed the realities for most residents. Quote, Gainesville is among the poorest cities in America and one of the least racially equitable in the distribution of income and resources. Black residents, who make up 22% of the city population, live largely in East Gainesville, where residents report severely limited grocery options, inadequate transportation, and poor street lighting. The median household income for Black residents of Gainesville's county is $26,561, just over 50% of the median household income for non-Hispanic whites. High school graduation rates for Black residents of the county are 18% lower than those of white residents. Black residents are almost 2.5 times as likely as white residents to be unemployed. End quote. A new logo, tagline, and website misses the mark. A department of doing, whatever that is, and running more design thinking workshops, ka-ching, miss the mark. Design thinking couldn't understand, empathize with, or solve the wicked problems of poverty and systemic racism. Kaiser Permanente health records. This is the second example. Quote, the healthcare consortium, Kaiser Permanente, hired IDEO to address the problem of losing important patient information as Kaiser nurses handed off their shifts through a series of workshops in which participants presumably empathized with nurses' experiences, defined the problem, ideated potential solutions, and prototyped and tested them. IDEO and Kaiser defined a new shift change process. To prevent the loss of important information, nurses would relay that information in front of patients themselves. That's right. Oh, sorry, end quote. That's right. After all that design thinking, IDEO decided that the best way for nurses to maintain good records during shift changes was oral storytelling in front of the patients. What about the information we might not say in front of a patient? The origin of modern design thinking. The article explains, quote, IDEO was native-born to the new Silicon Valley. Its members were industrial designers, people who designed physical products with an eye to both aesthetics and function. They were also interaction designers, the term newly invented by Moggridge himself, in that they used the new science of human factors to design interactions between people and machine interfaces. Given their expertise in both industrial and interaction design as well as engineering, they were well positioned to win jobs designing things that Silicon Valley and friends were just discovering they needed. IDEO designed a user-friendly portable defibrillator, a revamped Palm Pilot, a fast-acting mealtime insulin pen, and the 3.5-ton mechanical Orca for Free Willy, which was a movie. By the early 2000s, the firm had worked on thousands of products, most of which bridged physical and digital worlds. Its revenues were reportedly in the high tens of millions, and it was opening new studios in Munich, Tokyo, and Milan. When the dot-com bubble burst, revenues fell. IDEO depended heavily on internet startup clients and, more heavily yet, on its clients' confidence in the future. What to do? In 2003, David Kelly had an epiphany. Why not rebrand what they already did? Why be a guy who designs a new chair or car, Kelly later recalled to Fast Company, or indeed a software interface, when he could be an expert at methodology? Suddenly, Kelly said, it all made sense. They would stop referring to IDEO's approach as design. Instead, they would call it design thinking. Kayla says all about marketing. And from there, they had something, this is me writing now, so end quote. And from there, they had something to market and sell. Human-centered design repackaged and renamed. For IDEO's own profit, they tried to package up what great designers, problem finders, and problem solvers do to create a cottage industry, to sell you training, certificates, workshops, and projects, because their business was down and they needed to come up with something fresh. IDEO knew what it took to be a specialized designer or human factors engineer. They don't hire just any design thinker. You hire IDEO for who they hired and how they do things. It's seen as special, different, better than the average agency, whether or not it is or isn't. If they are selling a packaged, this is how we do things, people will line up to buy it. Hey, if Disney Parks and Resorts, now called Disney Parks Experiences and Products, packaged up, this is how Imagineering and Imagineers work, I'd buy it. I understand the attraction. I wish I could be an Imagineer and do whatever it is they do that is so special. Design thinking sells a fantasy. It sells you the fantasy that with some guidelines, templates, and sticky notes, you can do what IDEO does just like how they do it. I've seen this reflected in social posts and online articles. People are saying that now, design thinking lets them do what the best designers can do. That's a big promise, especially when I consider that design thinking tries to take something that takes weeks or months to do well and says you can do it in 5 days. It's more fake lean, just move fast type of thinking. IDEO didn't spend 5 days with Gainesville or Kaiser Permanente. Why are they teaching you to do this in days? More importantly, if it were true that design thinking lets you do what the best designers do, IDEO could put themselves out of business. If they were really selling you the absolute guide on how they solve problems, innovate, and design, you wouldn't need IDEO. Their idea to save their business from a slump hypothetically cannibalizes their business unless they knew that it wouldn't. IDEO must have known that they were creating something that people would find fun, maybe even addictive, something that would make people feel elite and special. You too can do what the best designers do. You can think like they think, work like they work in just 5 easy steps and in days. You don't have to be a designer or human factors engineer, but you can solve problems like they do. IDEO knew they had something that would keep people coming back and telling friends and coworkers that they should take this training too. Something that claimed it could solve any problem, especially wicked problems, even when IDEO themselves had some wild failures with the technique. Something teams and individuals couldn't do quite as well when IDEO themselves wasn't around. What company known for inventing things would purposefully invent something that could make them unnecessary? This reminds me of how my evil grandma loved to give out her recipes, but always left out one key ingredient so that yours never tasted as good as hers. She never told you that her delicious chocolate cake had some brewed coffee in it. IDEO left out the key ingredient of talented, experienced UX and design specialists. They sold it as anybody can do it, but they left out anybody can do it, but few will do it well. As a boiled down, commoditized 5 easy steps, anybody can do thing, design thinking doesn't guarantee that any of those 5 steps are done well or thoroughly. Quality of work and methodology matter. Critical thinking matters. Working from qualitative research, preferably observational, that was correctly planned, recruited, executed, analyzed, and synthesized matters. Without that, you are guessing at understanding customers, users, or the problem. You will empathize with what you assumed, which might be far from true. And where we didn't research with a diverse population, we might empathize with stereotypes and unfair assumptions about people, contexts, and systems. Remember Gainesville. Even IDEO says it's a theater of innovation and you're doing it wrong. In the fun cartoons and article Design Thinking and the Theater of Innovation, that article references a 2018 Fast Company article where, quote, IDEO partner Michael Hendricks acknowledged the superficial way that many organizations use design thinking, which he described as a theater of innovation. As he put it, quote, we get a lot of the materials that look like innovation or look like they make us more creative. That could be anything from getting a bunch of Sharpie markers and Post-its and putting them in rooms for brainstorms, to having new dress codes, to programming play into the week. They could all be good tools to serve up creativity or innovation. They all could be methods of design thinking. But without some kind of history or strategy to tie them together and track their progress, track their impact, they end up being a theatrical thing that people can point to and say, oh, we did that. End quote. Of course you're doing it superficially. IDEO knows it and wants to make sure you still need more help and training. Recertify every year. More empathy. Many people see IDEO as geniuses. They and their design thinking are supposed to solve anything. The above quote is from 2018. It's 2022 as I write this. Why haven't they solved design thinking being done superficially and as theater? Ask yourself that. Please use critical thinking about bringing design thinking into your organization, making people take training, making people get certificates, etc. It's too often workshop theater that is considered successful if we came up with some ideas and we had fun. Okay, but did the ideas go anywhere? What are we spending? What's the ROI? And what if there are better ways to do this, like how designers and problem solvers actually work and letting them do the work? Go back to the last year or two at your company. What have you spent on design thinking trainings and certificates? Include outside facilitators and trainers, include certificate fees and hourly or day pay rates for workers taking training. What have you spent on design thinking exercises and workshops? This took people away from their work for hours or days, even longer if you hold these frequently. Calculate what you paid in facilitation and attendee time. What have you spent on tools? Are there any tools, software, or systems that you're paying for just for design thinking? What did the next steps cost? Did product and UX start working on a winning design or idea? Did engineering build something? Did marketing work on promoting something? Are the winners from design thinking exercises going to market? Did UX ignore the ideas because they were weak or because UX doesn't use design thinking in their work and shouldn't? Did the ideas fail at some point and get abandoned? Did you release an MVP and then drop it? This costs time and money. Calculate that. Have you had trouble hiring or retaining UX professionals because they didn't want to work in an environment where people see UX boiled down to whatever design thinking means this week? Where have you had your best ideas? In a facilitated, templated workshop or in quiet reflection on a walk or in the shower? Sometimes the best ideas come from individual time. Check if your workshops really solve business problems or if they only put a Band-Aid on cultural problems by creating fun. Now consider if this is money and time well spent. It might not be. Make sure that you are hiring great CX and UX teams who do work thoroughly and correctly with skill, training, expertise, critical thinking, and room for creativity when the creative moment strikes, not when it was planned. With thanks to Roshan. All right, that's it. Let's flip back to me. We'll take a look at some of the comments, and then we'll also take a look at my design thinking challenge for each of you, my critical thinking challenge. So I10 said, excellent. That's why we need more people digging into origins of things, where certain concepts came from. How did they emerge? We should all be careful before adopting these things. Miguel says, IDEO is like a fake guru selling the dream of earning 10K in 5 days. Yeah, it sure is. Oh my gosh, it does sound like that. Squeeze page. I love it. Kayla says, have to admit, they are very business and branding savvy. Well, sure, absolutely. We were talking yesterday about the cult of personality and charismatic people who sell people anything. Kayla says, that's a term coined in the 90s, I think, by the experience economy. It was the concept of taking commodity and adding value by making it an experience, think Starbucks. This seems like the reverse, taking an experience and making it a commodity. Yes, agree. Raquel says, the best ideas have come from research and collaboration with stakeholders, both from business and tech. Having them in a workshop has been valuable for me. That's certainly Raquel's experience. Here on the channel, we tend to have the opposite experience, but if that's what Raquel's experienced, that's what she's experienced. I would, of course, recommend against researching with stakeholders or, we have plenty of stuff on the channel already about collaboration. So be careful about the difference between collaboration and work by committee or design by committee or giving up your power and autonomy. We got lots of shows about that. And Raquel, I sent you a 45-minute video this morning about it. Maybe you didn't have time to watch it. I10 says, I feel like this whole design thinking thing would fit marketing better. Am I wrong? I10, I don't think it fits anything at all. So I can't think of a time when anybody should use design thinking for anything, especially when we have user-centered design. We have a process that can be used for any size or type of problem, and you get some experts and qualified people in it, and you don't need sticky notes and boards and crazy eights and whatever. So there you go. Raquel, if you saw my video, you'd know the answer there. In fact, we have an entire video on definition of design by committee and democratization and things like that. Was it episode 51? I don't remember. So let's talk about a quote that someone sent me this morning, and I want everybody to think critically about it. And of course, I am warming you up for something because I'm asking you to think critically about it. So that's a little bit leading, but we're going to play along anyway. I'm going to read the quote out loud, and I want you to tell me if there's anything that you find agreeable or disagreeable about it. It's a quote from Nigel Cross. I found out it's from 2011, and it says, "Everyone can and does design. We all design. We plan for something new to happen, whether that might be a new version for a recipe, a new arrangement of the living room furniture. So design thinking is something inherent within human cognition. It is a key part of what makes us human." I know we're about 20 or 30 seconds delayed, but I'd like to get reactions to that. Things about it you agree with, things about it you disagree with, things about it you wonder about. What's your reaction to this quote? And then I've got a few more to show you. So while everybody writes some of their thoughts on here, let me know some of your, go ahead, let me know some of your thoughts. I'm going to prepare the next part of our adventure together, because today is all about critical thinking. And Kayla says, "I love my stickies, but usually for affinity mapping." Sure, and I'm using virtual stickies for that. Save the trees. Does anybody have any reactions, positive or negative, to the statement? Does anybody agree or disagree? Iton says, "Everybody designs, but not everybody should get paid for designing. Everybody sings too. I can sing too. But God forbid, every time I open my mouth, all the windows in the house breaks." Okay, Aitan, then we'll do karaoke. Kayla says, "I agree. Humans are naturally creative. What makes us different is that we ship." Do you mean like ship software or something else? Any other thoughts from the people joining live? I'm curious about what people are thinking. While you write your responses, I'll tell you what my response was when I saw this quote, "Ships products." Got it. Yeah, some humans ship products and some don't, says Kayla. So I want to tell you what my reaction was. And again, my reaction isn't necessarily right or wrong or better or worse, but I just want to show you how I take something like this and in my opinion, apply critical thinking to it. Eileen says, "It's a super abstract statement, not an argument for or against using design thinking in a business context." Yeah, I felt that way too. So what I did is, I find that when someone sends us these quotes, there's a, sometimes we think that we have to wholly agree or wholly disagree and say, yes, I agree with this quote, or no, I don't agree with this quote. But I think it's important to take pieces of information and break them down piece by piece, because to me, this is part of critical thinking. Part of critical thinking is stopping, breaking down pieces of things, breaking them into smaller pieces, and asking questions and thinking about possible outcomes and thinking about, why does this say what it says? Aitan says, "Everybody designs in their everyday life for themselves. When they work at somewhere they design for others and impact other people's lives, let's take it seriously." Akash says, "I just got here." Okay, you have a lot to catch up with. So here's how I look at this. Let's take it piece by piece. Everyone can and does design. Sure, we can agree with that. People do art. They do all kinds of things are called design, from interior design to artistic design. Some people might say music is design, dance. Yeah, sure. Everybody in one way or another can design something. They could do it well, they could do it badly, but everything could be design. Octavio says, "Every time I've expressed how useless design thinking is, I have earned disapproval and been labeled hostile, even segregated to the point of resignation." Well, it sounds like they don't have a lot of empathy, Octavio. Where's the empathy for someone like you who has a different point of view? That's why I think it's so important to make sure that whether we're talking about design thinking or anything else, we are using critical thinking. And Octavio, that's what I'm actually going to get to. You're catching me a little early on a point I'm planning to make, is that I do believe that design thinking has become a cult. I do believe that people need rescue from this cult or possibly some deprogramming. And I think that if we're at the point of treating people the way Octavio was treated, as he just said, that's unacceptable. This is a cult. So, but let's go back to this quote. Everybody can and does design. We can agree with that. We all design. We just said that. We can agree with that. But I noticed that saying it again is meant to drive a point home, and there's a reason for the repetition. Then it says, we plan for something new to happen. Not too sure why that's there. Whether that might be a new version for, because it plays into this, whether that might be a new version for a recipe, a new arrangement of the living room furniture. Okay, so we're just speaking to people's creativity in any possible area. Cooking, interior design, art, music. We're all creative. So the idea is that this quote is warming you up for the idea that whatever we're calling design, and evidently now a recipe is design and living room furniture is design, that all of these things that are called design, everyone's already doing these things. And this is designed, of course, for you to not disagree with it. And then it ends with, so design thinking is something inherent within human cognition. It's a key part of what makes us human. And at that point, I say, well, hold on there. We just made a giant leap. This is not A implies B. I think there's kind of a syllogism problem here. I think there's a logical fallacy problem here. And Raquel, did you get my email? Because I sent you a 45-minute video this morning answering the 14 questions I woke up to. I'm just curious if you got that, because I recorded you a 45-minute video this morning answering all the questions you sent. So design thinking is something inherent within human cognition. I can't necessarily agree with that, because what is design thinking? If design thinking is the club that kicked Octavio out, then no, I don't want to imagine that that's inherent within human cognition, or at least that's a bad side of human experience and existence and behavior. We can't even agree on what design thinking is. I don't believe that design thinking is user-centered design. I don't believe they're the same thing. And we just know from the IDEO article that we just read that IDEO was trying to make it something else. Robert says, we are all designers, but not all of us are worthy of being paid for it. Design thinking as a process that specifically includes empathize, ideate, prototype, and test is not a key part of what makes us human, however. Yeah, that's a good point, Robert. Not all of us can empathize. We've had a few show guests who have proudly admitted they have no empathy. Not everybody can empathize or does empathize. Not everybody is good at ideating, and not everybody does ideate. I hear a lot from my friends who have teenagers about a lack of ideation. Not everybody is prototyping and testing. So I would say that's not a key part of what makes us human. But I want to make sure people are thinking critically, because I think it's really easy to read a quote like this and just get drawn into it and sucked into it, because it basically tells you A is true, so B must be true. Okay, that's not syllogism, sorry. A is true, so B. That's it. There's even the word so there. A, so B. And I'm saying, you lulled us into a sense that A is true, but B is not necessarily true. So, be careful, because this is how I think some of that cult programming works, because they're not both true here. Aitan says, when I Google design thinking, which I just did, I don't honestly see any difference from what we're already doing. Gather insights, build, test, ship. What's new? Yeah, and it's not even that. To me, the main thing that's new is it's been dumbed down and skimped on and reduced, and it's been, minimized into anybody can do this and it can be done in hours or days. To me, it does not, it barely resembles user-centered design, because you're not guaranteed that good research was done correctly. Sometimes good research is done correctly before design thinking exercises, and sometimes it's not. There's nothing in design thinking that guarantees you're not getting garbage in. And there's nothing in design thinking that guarantees you're not getting garbage out. I mean, we'll give a certificate to anybody who knows what the 5 steps are. Nobody checked if you can empathize. Nobody checked if you can clearly understand the problem from the user's perspective. Again, IDEO specifically wanted to take human-centered design, boil it down into something that they could market and sell. And in that, to me, they've made it not user-centered design. It sounds enough like user-centered design that we're fooled into thinking it's the same. Even ITAN is saying, what's the difference between what we're already doing? The difference is that we have a process that is based on quality. And there's nothing built into design thinking that guarantees you're going to end up with any sort of good quality, because you have a whole bunch of people in the room doing exercises and following templates, and you're not guaranteed that any of this was done well by people with any education or knowledge or practice or experience or proficiency. So that's the difference. I mean, you know, what else can I tell you? But I want everyone to practice their critical thinking on some other stuff that I found. So let's flip my screen back over. And you should see, okay, good. You see me and the chat room and my computer screen. So when I was Googling this morning for that Nigel Cross quote, this page came up, and it ends up being full of quotes about design thinking. But this page was written in 2013. So these are all going to be old quotes that are not recent. You know, these are going to be like 10-year-old quotes about design thinking, which is going to be closer to IDEO's early days of marketing design thinking. So, of course, they have the Nigel Cross post. Now, I want to read these out loud, and I just want to get your critical thinking reactions to each quote. So now I'm going to read this one, if you happen to be looking at the screen. Design thinking is what people do when they pursue their goals. Design thinking is a more powerful, comprehensive, and creative form of purposeful thinking that can be applied to interpret or resolve complex, confusing, or unanticipated situations whenever and however those occur. Reactions? Now, of course, my first reaction is to call on episode 108. Who remembers episode 108? If you don't know it, please go to YouTube and write Delta CX 108. And you will get our very famous episode on what isn't design thinking. And of course, remember to subscribe here. So design thinking is everything. Design thinking is what you do when you pursue your goals. Well, if you're already doing it, and if it's part of human cognition, we don't have to be trained on it. We don't have to be trained on it. We don't have to take a certificate in it. We don't have to take a course in it. If this is just who we are and how we're wired and what we're already doing, then you've got nothing to sell me. I'm already doing this. I'm doing it whether or not I know I'm doing it. Design thinking is a more powerful, comprehensive, and creative form of purposeful thinking. What does that even mean? And again, this is why I feel like it's become a cult. I feel like you read this and you're just like, wow, it's just everything. It's like God loves me, but God might punish me. And God is there for me, but God might abandon me. I feel like design thinking is this all-powerful, unseeable, unknowable force that's just all part of us. Kayla says, that seems a very flowery catch-all statement. Aitan says, then why are they charging a fortune for their certificates? Yeah, these are my questions. The Mayo Clinic appears to have bought into the cult as well, and their quote on this page says, design thinking is an essential mental process in accelerating and promoting innovation. Design thinking essentially brings together observation and imagination. Okay, so if I'm good at observation and imagination, I'm already design thinking? Or I still need to learn design thinking? Design thinking is observation plus imagination. I don't know. Is it? Is there anything else that these could be? Observation and imagination? Could this be something else? Doesn't have to be design thinking. So let's put it this way. I'm pretty sure I've never done design thinking. However, someone else could look at what I do and say, no, 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 you're a design thinker. You're absolutely a design thinker. Look at you. You care about people. You get to know them. You observe them. You research them. You study them. And then you've really understood their problems. Then you come up with ideas and you iterate on those ideas. You prototype them. We've seen your Monday show. You prototype them and you test them. Debbie, you're a design thinker. And I'm thinking, I don't think so. Kayleen says, meow, meow, meow. And she's right. Aitan says, Debbie, all these quotes say the same thing. Yeah, and all these quotes say nothing. That's why we did episode 108. Let's go through the last two. This one, because we still have more time here together. Design thinking can be described. Now, this one's from Tim Brown from IDEO. Kayla says, sounds like a very loose framework that is trying to be an exact formula. Yeah, we pointed that out in episode 108. Like, there's all these definitions of design thinking, but then we don't even know what to do or how to do it. Tim Brown from IDEO said, design thinking can be described as a discipline that uses the designer's sensibility and methods to match people's needs with what is technologically feasible and what a viable business strategy can convert into customer value and marketing opportunity. I think that sentence wins for the most buzzwords. If you're playing buzzword bingo at home, you should have just filled in your card. So we've got design thinking is a discipline that uses the designer's sensibility and methods. So imagine that someone has packaged something that uses my sensibility. You're all smart people. There's 20 of you listening live. 20 of you smart live listening people. How can you use my sensibility? How would you use my sensibility? What is my sensibility and how do you use it? Aitan says, yeah, I think he used all the keywords. So that's a question I've had because I've actually seen that in blog posts where people from outside of design and UX say, I am using designers' skills. I am using design. I can do what designers do because I learned design thinking. So are you really using my sensibility? Sensibility. Sensibility. False friend in Italian. Sensibility definition. The quality of being able to appreciate and respond to complex emotional or aesthetic influences. Wow. I hope you're all using my sensibility right now. Robert says, well, I simply read your mind. It was great, Robert. Okay, so congratulations, you're all using my sensibility and you're all using my methods. Steph says, this sounds like the foxes are ginger, that cat is ginger, so the cat is a fox. Yes, our old friend, the syllogism. All designers think, and so they're all design thinkers. We're going to match people's needs with what is technologically feasible. I think most people, the average person does not know that. The average person doesn't know that. And in some cases, a designer might not know that. A designer might not have a sense of what is technologically feasible. Many of us who work in design can tell you we often design something that the engineers come back and say, we can't build that, or we don't want to build that. I would love to break technology and invent something that's so good it's not even technologically feasible. So I think almost everything's technologically feasible other than some aspects of AI and flying cars. But okay. And what a viable business strategy can convert into customer value and marketing opportunity. Whoa, we just involved like 12 other departments at our company who we can now pretend need design thinking training. We've got the business strategy people, we've got the CX people, we've got the marketing people. We are whistling at all of these people. You can be design thinkers. Because a viable business strategy can convert customers. Well, that's true. That part of the sentence is true in a vacuum. A viable business strategy can convert into customer value and market opportunity. So true. True in a vacuum. However, this has nothing to do with design thinking. Viable business strategies, you can create them with or without design thinking. Customer value, you can create it with or without design thinking. Other Robert says desirable, feasible, and viable is the holy trinity. Won't everybody join me in a round of the Don Norman Serenity Prayer? Now, I can't see what's on my screen right now, so I forget what it says. But it says something about give me the whatever to accept a crappy workplace and leave. I don't remember. I wrote this and now I can't see it, so I can't read it to you. Other Robert says, we're all in it together because anyone can do this job, right? And let's read the last quote on the page. Design thinking is a human-centered innovation process that emphasizes observation, collaboration, fast learning, visualization of ideas, rapid concept prototyping, and concurrent business analysis. I've spent a lot of time trying to research what innovations have claimed to come from design thinking, and I've had a very hard time finding them. I've had a very hard time finding companies that credit their innovations to design thinking rather than crediting their innovations to the people they hired, the freedom they give them, their research and development teams or processes. I mean, let's remember that Apple spends roughly $1 billion a year on research and development. They're not crediting design thinking. I mean, are any of the companies we admire most going, check out what we got done thanks to design thinking? I'm not seeing that. And I'm on LinkedIn all damn day. If somebody had written an article about that, like, hi, Apple made $1 squillion last year thanks to design thinking, and here's how we can prove that, I would notice that. But I haven't seen that. And I've been keeping an eye out for like 4 years now, and I'm not seeing that. So ultimately, a human-centered process is important. Innovation is great, but I'll settle for y'all making stuff that just works well. Even if it's not innovative, can you just make something that's easy to use? So a human-centered process emphasizing observation. Okay, that sounds like good UX research. Collaboration, that sounds like something we wanted at our company anyway, no matter what job anybody is in. Fast learning, well, sure, there are lots of methods and approaches that want people to work faster than they are now, always faster. We never seem to be working fast enough. Visualization of ideas, yes, that's why we have designers. Rapid concept prototyping, yep, I love Acture. And business analysis, which I guess is just being analytical. So, what? Iton says, Debbie, I asked above, but I'm going to ask again. Why do you think they succeeded? Why do people spend a fortune? And why do they have allies? 2 key reasons. Let's go back to my article for 2 key reasons. So why, I'm answering Iton's, why do I think they've succeeded? Why do they spend a fortune? Why do they have allies? So actually, there's probably more than 2 reasons. Let's rattle off the reasons as much as we can. First of all, it gives you a feeling that you are special. It gives you a feeling that you are more special than you were without design thinking. Classic cult stuff. You are special. You are part of what we're doing. You weren't that special when you weren't design thinking. You probably couldn't tackle the wicked problems. You probably couldn't really figure stuff out. You probably couldn't innovate. Now, you're part of something special. So I think, number one, there is that sense of elitism or you are special that tends to come with cult programming, because we don't say that in user-centered design. We say, hey, you're into UX, please use user-centered design. Thanks for dropping by. But I think design thinking sells the, you're better than you were before without this. You're doing something special. You're special. So there's that. I also think that people love taking training and getting certificates and going like, look at me, I'm now certified in a thing, listen to me. I can do something, or I'm an authority in something, or I'm gonna, and then of course there's the amount of money to be made off this. Can you imagine the amount of money that people make off of design thinking training, design thinking facilitation, coming to your company and running these workshops, packaging up design sprints along with it? It is an incredible, incredible money-making thing. Unbelievable. Haka says, I've been involved in a number of cults, both as a leader and a follower. You have more fun as a follower, but you make more money as a leader. I don't even know what to say to that. Kayla says, in my time as a graphic designer, I hated design by committee. So many uneducated ideas that looked awful, and to communicate clearly, the whole point of visual communication. Yeah. So I think people spend money on this for the reasons I said, but you have to remember one of the key promises of design thinking that separates it from double diamond or user-centered design or other things is you're going to be innovative. You're going to innovate. That means you're going to invent something nobody's seen before. You're not just going to make a slightly better mousetrap. You're not just going to make something better than it was before or the new updated version. Innovation. That word is just so heavy in my opinion. There's so much weight that comes with the word innovation. People are just like so hungry to say, I'm innovative. I see so many portfolios where people say, I'm innovative. The Office quote by Creed. The Office quote by Creed? I don't know what that means. Is this from the TV show The Office? Which I haven't seen. Wow. Imagine if somebody said to you, I have a program that you can take. You can get certified in it, and it will help you be an innovator. You will invent things that nobody's ever seen before. You will have better ideas than you've ever had. You might even be seen as a leader at your company because you can run these meetings and workshops that are just going to be so groundbreaking. Again, sounds like we're trying to bring you into a cult, but it's a very, very powerful siren song. These are all psychological tactics that we know can form habits and form addictions and give people a sense of belonging to something where they don't feel that now. Because obviously when we say things to people like, hey, not everybody can be a good designer, we immediately have gatekeeping shouted at us. Nobody wants to say, you're right. Not everybody will be a designer. Not everybody can be a designer. Not everybody's going to be a Disney Imagineer. I don't go shouting gatekeeper at Disney Imagineering. I go, yeah, please have high standards. So Aitan, I think that this has been as successful as it has been and ridden the wave of popularity that it has because, to me, it's turned into a cult. I know that's probably even more controversial thing to say than I normally say about design thinking because I hate design thinking, but I think it's starting to look like a religion or a cult. And if you don't agree with design thinking, if you don't like it, if you don't think it's user-centered design and great and we should all do these workshops, well, you're wrong. There's something wrong with you. Stephanie says, at some point, if you've invested time and money in something, I think you tend to promote and defend it because otherwise your investment was not worth it. Maybe that's a bias. Robert says, in confusing more younger designers. Yeah, Stephanie, I actually have that in my book. I actually said in my book that I believe that some people who have brought design thinking into their company have had a need to make it seem like it's better than it is. And that's why very often you hear the outcome of a design thinking workshop as being described as, oh, we had fun, or we had great camaraderie, or that was good teamwork. You don't hear about the actual outputs or outcomes, or what did we really make for the customer, or are we sure this is the right thing for the customer? It tends to be self-reflective about something that for us is cultural. And that's how we know, as Joe Rohde says, that these workshops fill a business cultural and emotional need, but they're not really about creativity. They're not really about innovation because these are not the key ways that your company has been creative or innovated. Kayla says, and yet you say you're an inventor and people think you are broke and tinker in your garage all day. It doesn't have the status that innovation does. Yeah, inventor and innovator are not the same thing. And what I started saying before and I forgot to finish my own thought was when I see portfolios that say I am innovative and I'm reviewing those portfolios, I always say, if I got you in an interview, I would ask you what you innovated. because we have to remember that the Latin root of that word is nova, which is something new, something we've never seen before. Like an invention, an innovation is supposed to be something never before seen. You are the first. You invented this. If you are going to put on your CV, resume, or portfolio that you are innovative or an innovator or you innovate, I'm going to ask you about that. So, again, my ultimate goal in all of this, I can poop on design thinking all day long. It's too easy. It's too easy. They're not even trying anymore, especially when there's an article out there where IDEO says you're doing it wrong and it is theater. It's too easy. It's too easy to burn this to the ground. I don't even have to try. But I'm here today to try to inspire all of you to think critically when you see these quotes, when you see the propaganda, when you see the claims. Think critically. Start by breaking them down sentence by sentence or piece of sentence by piece of sentence. Start by breaking them down. Look for where they commit various manipulations and logical fallacies and biases where they try to make you think that they have substantiated an argument. Like, so it's part of human nature. Hold on there. Wait, hold on. That was a jump. We don't know that that's part of human nature. We can't even agree on what it is. That's why I want to really inspire people to do more critical thinking. I haven't put the hat on in a while. Let's break out the hat. It's really important to make sure that we are always thinking critically and asking questions and thinking about possible outcomes and breaking things into smaller pieces and reanalyzing them. All of that. All of that. Maybe I'll just go for the traditional way of wearing it with the chin strap and everything. All right, not my best look. But anyway, my point is, don't stop critical thinking. Don't stop asking questions. Ask questions at work. Ask questions when you see these articles. Ask questions when you go to these people's training. I remember going to training for Safe Agile in 2014, and I asked twice, where is UX in your model? And they said, we haven't figured it out yet. Let us know if you do. By the time I did, they didn't want to hear from me. Robert says, are you still in Italy? I am. I live here, so I'm going to be here. Please, everybody, critical thinking. Don't fall for any of the things you're hearing. And you know, unless you do critical thinking and you think they make sense, then you're falling for it, but that, you know, that's fine. Don't fall for, well, design thinking is really user-centered design. If design thinking is user-centered design, call it user-centered design. But user-centered design is not done in hours or days in a room with sticky notes and exercises and workshops. That's not what user-centered design does. There's nothing here that says get everybody in a workshop and yell at stuff and role play and put up sticky notes and think of bad ideas on purpose because that's fun. That's not here. If that's a technique you like to use, you can, but that's not here. That's only in design thinking because we created something that could be digestible by the masses. Anybody have anything to add? Because we're running out of time. Let's take a look at the show schedule. I haven't been scheduling too many things lately. So we've got Friday reaction stream. We've got Monday Think Out Loud, though still nobody has sent anything for me to design for Think Out Loud. Won't you please go to deltacx.com/links and send in something. Send in a fake or real thing that I can design live on the air to help teach about design. No charge. Tuesday is double office hours, Tuesday the 15th, so there'll be an early and a late one, 10 a.m. Italy time, and the usual 6:30 p.m. Italy time. Next Wednesday, a week from today, I'm going to read a new article I have on real lean versus fake lean. So we're going to be burning some more stuff down next week. But again, it's got some origin stories of lean that might interest you, kind of similar to this design thinking one. But let's talk about lean. I do like lean. I just don't like new fake lean. And then, of course, Friday reaction stream. So yeah, there's a few things in the calendar, not as much as usual. I haven't been able to schedule people the way I have wanted to. And I need some more ideas from all of you on people you'd like to have on or topics we should cover. Now that we have 500 hours of videos on here, I think we're starting to run out of ideas, but we'll still do our usual weekly shows while we think about some other people we want to interview. Someone asked me for service design, so I'm trying to find one or two people who could be guests there. So with that, I will play us out of here. Thanks, everybody, for taking the time to do some critical thinking with me and ask some tough questions. And again, if you like design thinking, that's up to you. I don't like it, and I think when we think critically about it, it starts to fall apart. And for more on that, you can, of course, see episode 108, What Isn't Design Thinking? Because as far as I can tell, everything we're doing all the time is design thinking because it's just natural human thought. Can't even. Anyway, Kayla says, thanks for the show. Thanks for coming. The show is what it is because you were here and you joined in live. So I'm always happy to see people joining in live and adding their thoughts. So I'm going to play us out of here, but I'll see everybody on Friday for the reaction stream. Be well. Bye. Customer centricity as business intelligence. Visit deltacx.com to learn why we are